Welcome to April 8th, 2022, another week down. Jumping right into it. So liftoff is our primary priority right now. Near all of our resources are focused on this milestone in some sense, and that will continue to accelerate. So efforts with code on the product side getting laid down, new purchase system, the IRB consent integration into the signup flow and the new signup flow, API integration is getting close to being complete prior to deadline. So we're really getting set up to go live with our upcoming liftoff and associated trials. So it's exciting. Please, please make sure that these priorities, these liftoff related efforts are getting top attention right now. The Now page was released to 50 members this week. I think we had a handful, maybe like 6 or 7 feedback calls as part of a greater push to understand how the interactions, comprehension, just get direct member feedback before we go live with everyone to understand how this is being taken up by our members. We're also working on 50 additional, around 100 now. Thanks, David. We're also working on understanding general comprehension and purpose. And so goal is for next week to go to, I think, 50% of new signups. So this is quite exciting, learning a lot. You see a GIF there of the current Now page member interaction. We're at about 22% GDPR compliance for UK. So this is the privacy policies for overseas. Karen is taking this on. She just released a compliance memo today talking about the efforts and how this is going to play out. Also focusing on subsidiary and tax, logistics, privacy efforts. So there's a whole bunch happening, all sort of snowballing towards our liftoff overseas. DRI shifts happening. So our directly responsible individual role or profile or label, I believe we're calling it. So these shifts are taking place as our new team members are able to get fully ramped up. So Riley's taking on financial reporting. JM is moving into ownership on analytics. We're gonna have some more updates on those things, but just generally speaking, this is a great sign. People are able to start making handoffs, free up their focus for their primary function, and we'll see a lot more of it. And right now, Sam is working on a DRI matrix. Intention of that is to bring more clarity into the sort of the decision overlap and decision arrangements across the company. So we have big projects, we have whole functions and DRIs associated with a varying flavor or spectrum of each. And so starting to make these sorts of overlaps clear is a goal as our team grows. So we're going to experiment with DRI matrix, going to collect some feedback on it, and continue to improve here. There's a product building flow memo currently in work. So Scott is taking lead on this. Goal is to develop a repeatable process for projects that really rely on experimentation, iteration, and learning. So this is going to be a critical part of how we build things going forward. Very excited for this. It's kind of like phase 2 after the DRI and product memo that Scott released a few weeks ago. And then just generally, like, member-centric research initiatives are continuing to expand. We got David and Mike on Now interactions and content recently. Sissy did community calls and member feedback from community, and Brett with logging. So a lot of good stuff happening. We're going to continue to expand here. Alan released a good video talking about user research specifically, which we're going to use to kind of continue to focus on growing this function inside our company. Monthly highlights. So content leverage was up 6.2x for support. Monthly active users up 3.4, subs up, subscriptions up 12%. Conversions for the month were at 13.9, and the weekly record was 15.6, which is great. And the log rate, so logs per monthly active user, was up 10%, which is also a really good sign. And then finally, the research team is all in place. So we're set on the personnel front for the upcoming trials. We are sourcing final advisor feedback on the protocols and the informed consent form right now. And so this is kind of like a last stage before we kind of put this thing in motion. So quite exciting. And then over on Whole New Level, we had a couple of great episodes this week. Rob recorded on the obesogens papers that came out this week. I had a chance to talk to Chris Trulio and Jesse about type 1 diabetes and the T1D community as it relates to technology that we use. We had a great episode. Well, this is upcoming, but Paul Canales and Ben discussing perspectives from or the perspective of a chef as it relates to metabolic health. And Brett recorded as well. I believe his first Whole New Level episode. Had some good coverage this week. We recorded some executive videos about our upcoming fundraise announcement, which is going to likely be the week of April 18th. good blog traffic updates. So up 12% for March, huge numbers that we're posting on the blog. We had a Medium article go live written by David about velocity versus quality. We're kicking off a new website refresh associated with Liftoff. That is underway now with I think I'm gonna blank on the agency. Oops, sorry. Then we got some cool stuff happening over on the onboarding Captivate. Thanks, Ben. Onboarding over here. So the goal to unlock the glucose graph, we're going to have this interactive function or game to help people start to understand, even before day one, how inputs affect the curve. So what they should expect to see based on their sort of lifestyle choices. So this is going to be a really cool experiment to see just what sort of education we can front load even before someone sees CGM data. Okay, I think that was good. I think we covered most. I'd like to welcome Shervin Shaikh. So Shervin has kind of been in the orbit for Levels for quite some time now as as a member and then as a creator. He runs content creation on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, really hilarious and great videos, deeply insightful. He's also a product manager and yoga instructor. So just a diverse set of expertise. And Shervin, I just really appreciate, first of all the efforts you've put into expanding awareness about what we're working on in the larger concepts of metabolic health. Really appreciate you joining us and taking some time to chat with us. Love to hear your thoughts.
Definitely. Thank you for having me. Go Gauchos. Yes. I went to Santa Barbara. It's funny. I quit my product manager job, still teach yoga, but recently left that job to kind of focus on content creation. And that's been a big goal of mine recently. Just being able to tell stories and inspire people to kind of live healthier lives. And I think I met Mike like early days when I first started my Levels journey. And I think the team was a lot smaller, and I've been using Levels on and off since then. I got it on right now with my Whoop strap next to it and my Oura ring on my other hand. So I love gadgets, and I love trying to measure things and figuring out how to optimize my health and just be a better person. And it's really been interesting to kind of use Levels and understand like what I'm eating, how does it impact my energy levels and how I feel and how I'm productive throughout the day. Like for example, I used to use like this athletic meal prep stuff for a while, and I thought it was really good for me. Like I was like, oh, I'm gonna get stronger and bigger, and this is supposed to be healthy. But then when I used a CGM and I figured out it was spiking my glucose like crazy, and I figured out, oh, I'm getting like these sugar cravings after, I'm getting exhausted, and I didn't really understand why until I used the CGM. So for me, that was kind of the biggest revelation I've had with using a CGM. And since then, it's like really trying to understand like what foods impact my glucose levels and all that. And I love the blood work stuff. I recently did the new metabolic test with the blood work as well. I'm working on a video right now where I quit sugar for 30 days and then I binged on sugar for 4 days. And it was really interesting to see how my blood work changed. So I did a blood work within the 4-day span as well. And my fasting insulin, like it just went in the wrong direction, and it was just like pretty drastic. So that's a future video that's coming out. And I also had my Levels CGM on as well during that time. So I think what all of you are doing is super exciting. Like everything from the application to the marketing to creating a space where people want to be a part of the brand and learn about their health and their diet is extremely powerful. So it's honestly an honor to be a partner and to talk about Levels. And I have some videos on YouTube and some content, and I'm planning to make more. Like some are already cooking right now, so stay tuned. And if you are in New York City, like I love meeting people in person, so definitely message me on Instagram or anywhere on social media, Twitter even, and would love to connect. I feel like I should have worn my Levels beanie that I got in this call.
That would be extra credit, but
yeah,
not mandatory.
Anything else that I can share? What else should I talk about?
I just, I love the history. For those who haven't, I think Chris linked to it, but there was like an early unboxing video way back, one of the first that you made. And I remember that one distinctly because I think it was the first unboxing video that we had or that I came across. And so I was like, oh no, what's going to go wrong? The packaging was very new. The experience was like almost brand new. And anyway, it's just really, it's fun and exciting to have this what started as organic user generated content and has now become a partnership. just really awesome to hear your perspective about the real world use case. And then also just hearing you talk about weaving in this objective layer of biometrics into what is traditionally just a massive consumer platform that has a lot of opinion, something like YouTube, where there's a lot of opinion, a lot of people breaking down their reactions to things, but seeing a biological substrate to that content starting to come to life, with the metabolic health panel and talking about how your insulin changed over a 4-day sugar binge. I mean, that's just like, I can't wait to see where this goes. So exciting.
Yes, I'm super excited. I think there's a lot of content on YouTube to be healthier, but there's not as much content on like using data. So I want to be that creator who leverages platforms like Levels to kind of show that journey with data.
Amazing. Well, Shervin, we just love hearing these organic stories. We've got kind of a packed meeting here, and I know you're super busy, but if you'd like to stick around, we have another share like towards the end where we all kind of just share something personal. So please feel free to stick around for the rest of the show here, and we'll talk at the end. Otherwise, from the whole team, I really appreciate you setting some time aside on your Friday, and have a great weekend.
Definitely. Keep killing it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, jumping into culture. First off, I want to highlight, we ebb and flow with making sure we highlight these, but we're gonna be consistent going forward. Alan hit his 1 year this past Wednesday, and it's crazy to me because it feels like he's been here from the early days. I mean, the way that the app has evolved, Alan has brought sophistication not only on our understanding of how design works and the beauty that can be present in something that was very functional previously, but also how we connect to it emotionally. And he has leveled up our Loom game in a way that is hard to describe. So Alan's brought like so many hard to describe nuances to the team. He's got such a sophisticated understanding of what we're doing and why. And I can't believe it's only been a year. I feel like I've learned so much from you. Looking forward to many more. On the user-centric member feedback front, got a highlight in threads this week about Brett and Sissy jumping straight into just like amping up our community initiatives and our logging, our feature development with member feedback. And this is just awesome. I know everybody enjoyed seeing those videos and being able to watch the organic interactions happening as we develop new features, but also develop new concepts about how people can connect with each other. So thanks, Brett and Sissy, for leading the charge on this stuff. Looking forward to much more. And lastly, I want to highlight Dave. Dave has been just, Andrew reached out and just shared how much Dave has been doing behind the scenes to help offload on difficult production weeks and really take on a huge amount of engineering process and management and helping us to scale and grow. And so this is just so critical as we try to get our systems in place and functioning smoothly as we ramp into liftoff and expansion beyond that. Just want to shout out to Dave. Thanks for all the work you're doing. It's very much appreciated, and keep crushing it. All right, over to Ms., I believe.
Hey team, 2 quick updates for you this week. The first is that our Q1 culture survey has been released, and I'm asking everyone to fill it out by this Sunday night so that we can compile the results and start taking action based on the insights that come out of it. It should take you about 30 or so minutes if you're being thoughtful and taking the time to write out responses. Please do that. It really does help, and a lot of value comes from this, just in terms of getting the pulse of where people are at, identifying areas where we can improve, and doubling down where we do have strengths. So this is out in Notion. You can also find the link in Threads. And again, please fill it out by this Sunday if possible. Moving into next quarter, we're going to do this on a rolling basis. So a number of people will fill this out each week. You won't fill it out more than once per quarter, but that should give us a moving target and a closed feedback loop. And then second update for today is that this memo was sent out, Defending Against Burnout. It's a really important topic to make sure that we all take care of ourselves and that we have the tools and resources and words to talk about this topic. It can often get buried in other companies and other contexts, and so we think it's important to kind of point it out and name it and make sure that we're all keeping ourselves in a healthy spot. We have a lot of really important work to do. We're still a very early stage startup with an endless amount of things on the plate and priorities, but we want to make sure that everyone is doing so and working in a sustainable way so we can get there. So take a look at this and start the conversation with your manager or peers if there's more you want to talk about on this topic. That's it. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Ms. 2 super important initiatives there. Appreciate everybody's help on the first one, and absorption of the second one is going to be critical for us, maintaining our work-life balance. Right, the main thing hasn't changed. Level shows you how food affects your health. There's a subtext here about priority, which is liftoff, which we touched on at the beginning. If you aren't working towards this priority, this confluence of priorities, please make sure you raise the question so we can make sure our resources are well aligned. JM on North Star.
Good morning from earlier today. On the North Star metric, we had a good week of food loggers up to almost 1,900 on a 7-day average basis. That's up 2.1% week over week. Obviously a good thing, but the stress on our system is certainly creating some issues. So a special thanks to Andrew for the extra work to keep everything together. Help is on the way. I'm going to do a couple more if you don't mind. By request. Team size versus membership growth. With the addition of Stadi, Steven, and Galit, we grew our team by about 6% last week. You don't see numbers like that very often anymore. And so our members per employee is now at 443. It ticked down a bit. At the moment, we don't let memberships expire. So this number will generally go up. And then the first renewals and expirations will happen at the end of the year into January. One last slide on subscribers. We had a 100 net new subscribers in the last full week, which was up from 55 the week before. That consisted of 183 new subscribers starting a subscription that week and 83 churning. All in, we have 4,718 current CGM subscribers, which on a rolling month basis is up 18%. That's a lot of growth. People like subscriptions. That's all for me. Thank you.
As you can see, JM is taking the pilot seat in our analytics chair. So he's going to be continuing, I'm sure, to experiment with what we show here and how we tune those metrics to really understand what's happening in our business, make sure we're focusing on the right things. Thanks, JM. There we go. Okay. Scott.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. All right, quick check-in on this slide because it's been a couple weeks. You should notice a bunch more faces popping up into business enablement. This is expected. This is a good thing. Again, our commitment was to maximally staff down business enablement as much as possible. I even sent a thread to David and Andrew yesterday to say, hey, just a quick check-in. Is there any way that we could possibly pull more people from education and insights into business enablement? We are tracking toward liftoff as quick as we possibly can, and we're going to continue to move resources over to doing that if it means that we can deliver ahead of schedule, if at all possible. So quick also moral plea, I guess. I think we are heading into a lot of projects that are entering what I call the second 80% phase. This is the less fun phase because it doesn't seem like you're making as much progress, but it is just as important, and it requires us to be quite diligent and quite focused. So I know we have remote and async, it is easy. The entropy is definitely to tend toward things kind of taking a little while. I think, but it is very important that we stay focused on things like bugging people on pull requests, making sure that we have ticket accountability on the things that we're actually working on. The more that we can continue to have a sense of pulse and urgency, we're going to be able to hit liftoff right on time. So I'm excited for it. I need everybody to stay focused. Next slide, please. And yeah, also quick breakdown just in terms of who's working on what. So mobile team very much focused on the Now project, and almost all of our web resources right now heading on liftoff. Also, just a quick note that we are doing a couple of things that are not strictly tied to liftoff, but that we felt like it was time to do. So a little bit of tech debt around commerce stuff. We're going to give the website a new sort of fresh coat of paint. All of these things I think are not strictly dependent, but definitely something that we feel like, hey, as a business, it's time to grow up a little bit in these areas. Not completely, just a little bit. And so this is where the allocation is at. Possible that we're also going to pull Steven and Galit onto projects that maybe a tiny bit earlier in terms of what would normally be maybe a 6-week onboarding period. Next slide. David continues to crush it here. Mobile team as well. Thank you. I feel like I don't have to update this slide almost every week because we're consistently at, hey, it's Friday, so it means we released on Tuesday. It's been 3 days. So reiterate, just a great job to everybody there. I think that's it for me.
Thank you, Scott.
Next slide. Oh, sorry. One more plug. Okay. So a couple weeks ago, or maybe last week, I put this slide up about a PM rec opening. We do have that rec open right now. Go to the next slide. As a quick reminder on the sort of PM triangle, we are hiring another GM artist type. So this is going to be, these are often referred to as feature PMs. We did get the role posted just as a sort of an update to progress here. You can access it at levels.link/PM. If you know anybody that is extremely qualified for this role, please send them my way. It's going to be a fairly senior role that we are hiring for. And we're going to start with some manual outreach. So I filtered through about 2,000 people on our wait list, and I got about 75 after looking at a ton of LinkedIn profiles. I got about a list of 75 that we're going to start the manual outreach to. I think as we look toward building a more diverse and representative team, it's incumbent on us to make sure that we're stuffing the top of the funnel with people that we can hand select in a way that we feel like are going to be a good fit, skills-wise, culture-wise, et cetera. So we're going to do that manual outreach. Once that's been roughly exhausted, then we'll just go ahead and do a broader posting to sort of just solicit for more applications if we're not able to find someone to join. So this is just status update of where we're at. But if you have anybody in mind, please send them my way, because I think late next week, I'm going to start doing some manual outreach to get some calls scheduled. So thanks in advance for the help.
Awesome. Exciting that's posted.
Cool. So I wanted to lead off with feedback. So as Josh mentioned earlier, we enabled 50, Mike enabled 50 new members for us last week. And so this week we had from that 6 new feedback calls on the calendar. And generally it's still similar themes from last week. Things are positive. The comprehension and education aspect of things have been improved on the new experience. However, we're still seeing some people are having issues with some of the interaction patterns as well. We got some feedback on it was difficult to read some of the now card text over images in the background. So a couple of the things that we're iterating on with Alan. However, one of the things that came up in this is just that we need to get more member calls on the books. And so in order to facilitate that, like right now, our signal to noise ratio is just too low to have any consistent themes outside of qualitative feedback. So as Josh mentioned, we're going to be increasing the rollout from 5% to 50% of new members so we can get more feedback calls on the books, hopefully get 5 per day instead of 5 per week. And it's something that I'll be spending a lot more of my time on. It's in a good spot. The people who are using now are telling us that they enjoy the experience. They're getting value out of the stories. And so there's nothing egregiously preventing us from doing that higher rollout. A couple of the other things I wanted to share is that a lot of people I'm talking to are telling me that they go through an evening ritual where they go back and review all of their data, which I thought was interesting. So that's very common to go back and look at their 24-hour chart, look at all the food they logged in context. So that's maybe something that we want to double back on in the future. And then another trend has been when people, they say that they read the now cards when they have time, but sometimes they don't have all the time. And so the now card stays open. And so when they want to go back to their food, they've been going back to the My Data tab and then drilling into the My Data today and then seeing their food there. So just another something that's on my mind as I monitor for additional feedback calls. The other thing we're looking at for next step is considering a scaled approach to feedback. So how might we encourage feedback from an in-app call to action? And I think Alan will talk a bit about that later. So next slide. Briefly, we've been iterating on the card navigation, but Justin, who's our main engineer working on that, has been out this week. So no major progress here this week. Next step. Gabriel is just finishing up the PR for in-app onboarding. So I'm expecting to have this out in the build for next week. And that should be a huge help for the very first step, helping our members comprehend how to get set up. Next slide. So once they're set up, then the next thing they're going to see in the app is the things that are going to help people understand what is the purpose for levels and what they should be thinking about. And so Steph has been focused on packaging this up into a guided journey daily experience. So every day you see a set of things that you'll be going through that the levels team suggests. And that's a combination of the common questions that we wired up before, as well as proactive, more purpose-based stories. There's a demo for that in the now form if you want to take a look. Next slide. And so this was the mocks that Alan put together for the interactive glucose learning that Josh mentioned. If you go to the next slide, you can see the prototype that Alan wired up, where you can add foods to the graph. It goes up, it goes down. If you add something healthy, it stays pretty stable. If you add multiple quantities to that, it goes up higher. This is just the bones. Murillo is going to be taking this and turning it into the in-app version. We may just be able to use the existing web view here, but we want to have a couple other pages that teach you the principles, like going for a walk afterwards can help reduce it. Mixed meals matter, things like that. So it should be a fun experiment. Next slide. And then what the other, on top of the the struggle people have to comprehend what to do in that first week. We also want to help them, point them towards a direction and give them purpose. What is the purpose for using levels, and build an experience around that. And we think that the first experiment we want to try for that is the baseline metabolic report. And then this is going to promote food logging, saying, hey, during the first week, eat your existing diet, add food every day, and progressively unlock this report. So the next slide, please. This week, John had been working on the accompanying widgets and explainers around this report. So what shows on that now homepage, what tees up the metabolic report in the beginning that helps you understand what you're going to be getting out of it. And then this is still very much a work in progress, but that's what he was working on. Next slide. So Justin, again, was out of office, so we paused the event-based insights that he was working on. But if you click the video here, you can see late on Friday, he released a demo just before he, Josh, can you go ahead and click the play button there? Yeah, so the interaction model on this needs, we need to tweak it, but Justin pushed out a great demo where as you go through your zone review, now you'll have these, like here's a fructose example where we attach information about fructose when you eat something that has high fructose. So you can see it right there in context with what you're eating. And this really helps close the loop on what should I be doing, like what happened and why, and what should I be doing next based on your personal food logs. Next slide. And then the final code was pushed out for the histogram on why it happened. However, it's still not live because we're waiting for a backfill operation. So as soon as we get the backfill on tagging at some point, it's low priority. Members will start to see that. Next slide. And then I'll leave most of this to Alan, but we're thinking about how we might release now to existing members to get more feedback in an opt-in kind of way. Of course, everyone will be cut over to the new experience in time, but we wanted to see if we can turbocharge the feedback. So Alan's working on some designs to that end. And next slide. And that's about it. There's a whole bunch of other things we did, smaller fixes behind the scenes. Quick shout out to Stephen for fixing one of the interstitial explainers that we had for logging. Nice to see something go live, even in the early days, Stephen. And I think that's it.
Awesome. A lot of great stuff there. Thank you, David and team.
Oh, one last slide. Okay, so I just wanted to say up next, we'll be focusing on really doubling down on validating the interaction model. So that the early core phases for the now projects is that full screen experience, the navigation. As I mentioned, we want to increase the number of feedback calls we're having. So really focusing on validating the interaction model, doing that through increasing the number of participants and then iterating on that feedback. We're making great progress through the development. We're gonna put a pause on some of the very late stage parts of this project and double down on allocating our resources to the validation phase. So that's what's up next.
Awesome. Thank you. Over to
Hey everyone, Engineering Weekly check-in. We've had a great week, a lot of velocity both on the product side and back-end infrastructure side. Recruiting pipeline continues to be healthy. We had one signed offer this week that we're really excited about, we'll announce soon, and a pending one that we'll give an update soon. The callouts for this week, so I want to call two different things. One is there's some excellent engineering and product work happening with the Now project and a lot of the visual explainers and these kinds of things. The change that we implemented of having a loom is so useful for all these UI components, and so I want to call out John's work here. It's really cool. I was really excited watching it. The others I want to call out Stephen. He just started and already fixing bugs, contributing to our team. So I'm incredibly excited about that. Hope everyone has a great weekend.
Thanks, Andrew. Thanks, team. All right. Over to Alan.
Sorry about that. Okay, cool. So what's happening in design this week? So tons of updates on the Now project. You know what, I'll step back. I think the theme of the week definitely has been more centered on sort of user research. And I think ultimately just getting a little bit more informed about our users and making making better decisions in service of their needs. So next slide. So here's Brett running a user interview on the new logging experience that he's been working on. I think this is actually just such a great example of the benefits of having a prototype in the works. So this user is actually able to tap on these things and experience it. and we're able to record it and get some feedback and actually like, see how this works for people. And thanks again, Chris, for the shout out there. I think we're going to do more of this. It's going to address some of the pain points before building versus doing it later. And so just kudos to Brett for the amazing prototype that he put together on this. Next slide. So on the Now project, as things are starting to become more real, we're starting to do a little bit more tightening, looking at some of the details. Sometimes at the outset of a project, it's kind of hand wavy, we do the designs, but the specs aren't quite there. And so we're starting to just dig in, provide a little bit more specifications on some of these little modules, like the day guide, like tightening it up so we make use of the vertical space a little bit better, having the metabolic report up there when you're first beginning so you can build towards that. And yeah, mostly tightening like Pikachu here. Next slide. So we have heard some feedback on the navigation, and this is a concern that I've had for a while. So we're going to start using some of that feedback and some of the scaled research approaches that David's used for improving that. I think the swipe model, it's kind of okay when you don't have that many cards, but we noticed that some people are never dismissing their cards, and so that stack gets really big. And so potentially we have some sort of like timeline representation so that we are able to keep context on where you are, but also allow you to quickly navigate and tap between them. We don't want to have maybe 3 pages of stuff you don't care about to get you to the one that you do care a ton about. Next slide. Oh, and I should say that one will be, we'll be doing some user research on that and sort of getting some feedback before we move too far down the road. For now, I don't think that it's super high priority, but we're definitely going to like get some signal first. Next slide. So you're going to start seeing the dashboard get a little brighter. I framed this OMG color because I've been feeling for quite a while that the app is feeling a little dark, and I've mentioned that in maybe a couple of presentations a while ago. So we're embracing this sort of change of time over the day idea where the background changes as the day progresses. We want to build a little bit of delight and a little bit of a connection to the moment. This may not work. This may not resonate with our users, but I think it's worth a try. And so we're going to start rolling that out pretty soon. Next slide. Oh, and more on color. So yeah, some of the feedback we've heard from users is some of the text can be a little bit tricky to read sometimes when we overlay it. I think that treatment, it gives us sort of this nice full screen feel. It feels really, sort of immersive. But if we have a ton of text, and sometimes we do, we probably want to do a little bit more to make it a little bit more legible. So we might looking a little bit more into adopting an approach very similar to Apple or Spotify when you look at a music album, where they derive colors from the images and then change the text or background color around it. So here's an example on the right, and hopefully we can just integrate into existing APIs to take advantage of that kind of solution. Next slide. And yeah, spending a lot of time with David this week talking about the rollout strategy for the Now page. We want to get more feedback, and we also want to make sure that we mitigate the inevitable rejection of any user experience change of this magnitude with our users. And one of the best ways to do that is to provide some means of opting in initially into the experience, giving us feedback. Here's an example where we would prompt people to potentially try the new dashboard. We'd have something in settings where they could turn it on, and they give us some feedback. And we could maybe just link off to a Google form, or maybe it's in situ. But either way, we want users we want to get more feedback. We don't want to have to interview every single person, although that's really powerful. We'll probably use that for more targeted feedback. And for this, we'll get sort of a bulk point of view from everybody. Next slide. So memos, and finally, not a huge chunk of time on this, but we've documented sort of how we're going to be prompting for gender and sex in the app. We want to make sure we get this right so we represent our users effectively in the product, and have a bit of a paper trail so that we can revise it or update it later and have a reference for the rest of the product team. What's that? Anything else? Next slide. I think that's it. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Alan. All right, jumping into hiring update real quick. So Caitlin is actually with us on this call right now. She'll be formally starting in a few days as senior editor. So Caitlin, welcome. We'll do an official welcome next week. Thanks for joining us a little as a sneak preview. And then we've got Jen starting on April 18th and Sonia also starting on the 11th, which is quite exciting. So team continues to grow, excited for these new members. And then open roles, we added product manager to the levels.link/careers page. Scott touched on this role specifically. If you know someone who fits one of these, please refer them. Otherwise, if you know someone who's just a great fit for our culture, or if you are someone who's a great fit for our culture, reach out. Although the role might not yet be defined, we have a lot of growth ahead. Okay, Athena and LJ.
Everyone, LJ here, giving you this week's Athena weekly update. So from the past week, we still have 11 active EAs, 20 levels team members who delegated, and 173 tasks we were able to accomplish. There's a significant increase with the tasks accomplished because last week fell on an end and start of the month. Now moving forward, let me share with you the new delegation for the week, which came from Chris. So Chris sent his first task request last week, and along with it is a very detailed Loom recording, which is an hour long, of the process, and he also went ahead and shared account access to PostHog, which helped Mai jumpstart the task. So this is something that you can definitely do. If you're anticipating some questions, clarifications that the EAs might ask, you can be very detailed with your Loom instruction, giving them your preferences, how you want it to be done, any other details that you would like to include right there. And if you are also anticipating that for the EAs to be able to accomplish this task, they will need specific account accesses, like for example, right here, PostHog account, or maybe they will need access to your emails or your calendars for them to be able to accomplish it. Please feel free to share it in your email request if you want it to be smoother and you are anticipating that you won't be able to answer right away the EA after you sent the request. So that's it. Thank you very much, everyone, and have a great week.
Thank you, LJ. Congrats, Chris, on your first delegation. It's exciting.
Everyone, LJ here.
We got a first replay here. Okay, over to Taylor. Oh, is Taylor with us? Don't think he is. All right, I'm going to take this one. Okay, so research team. We touched on this in the beginning. The research team that Taylor has pulled together for getting us through liftoff on the IRB program is up and running. So we've got Azure on planning. She's currently focusing on research framework, modeling, and analysis. Jesse is jumping in and flexing into IRB updates, protocol management, and overall project management, IRB approvals, and iterations. And then Stadi, who has joined us to help as a consultant on the trial monitoring and compliance. And then on into analysis, that remains to be done. Obviously, we're going to fill that with internal as well as potentially external third parties as we build a data set that can really move the needle on our understanding of both our members, but also the broader population level, glycemia and lifestyle. So analysis is going to be kind of a multi-phase project, and ultimately the goal will be to turn this research into something that really is a meaningful benefit to the larger scientific community. So hopefully some publications, we'll see. So great work on Taylor's part, pulling this team together, and thanks to the team for helping us get there. All right, there we go. Chris.
Thanks, Josh. So normally I only get made fun of by my wife for how much I talk, and now LJ is calling me out for my hour-long Loom to transition. So in the spirit of that Athena call out, I actually wanted to bring up some of the slides that they're actually doing for us. So these slides, if you remember, probably ones I've done once or twice, but maybe a couple months ago. This is the output of what Athena's building for us, where they actually go into PostHog, pull a lot of reports, transcribe it into Google Sheets, then kind of bring it into slides in terms of the number of people that are getting to each page, the number of clicks kind of per average member, and then like any changes over time. So I need to update the screenshots as the app is changing. I need to add new kind of reports to it as we add more features like the Now page. But I just wanted to kind of highlight the output that Athena is doing. Josh, if you want to go to the next slide, just as kind of a quick reminder of then we dive down into details in terms of like, hey, how many people are clicking on help or the sensor or the manual sync. So our ability to kind of have this kind of data sitting around, are there changes over time or usage? Another example, I think, like the example, like the glucose community, I was like, wow, that's a really small number, and talk to Scott and you realize, oh yeah, we never shipped that, which I'm like, oh, that makes sense why the number is really, really small. It's only internal. So this is great for us to kind of get I think right now the plans for them to do it about every 2 weeks, just to kind of have that gauge and see how things kind of move over time. Next slide. Again, just an example of kind of the types of data that we're pulling using this analysis. Next. And then I highlighted some examples where we might have examples where we don't have tagging yet. Example, I think Alan reached out to me about, hey, Chris, do we tag, this, thing in the feature? And I'm like, no, not yet. So sometimes a reminder for us to work with engineering around, are we putting in post-hoc data, tagging it, so we actually can see who's, using our new features. Next slide. Okay, back to support effectiveness. So we talked a little bit around intentionally us kind of slowing down, but I wanted to kind of remind people that we've also, we made that effort several months ago, way back in September, on the support in terms of how quickly we respond. So the trend on the left kind of shows our average response time for an hour and 3 hours, and you kind of see it going down. And this was intentional and really trying to actually bring it to free people more time up to do kind of project work versus just being in the queue all day long. So the number's kind of down at 82, which is really where we want it. Now, if I go to the slide on the right, my call out is I focus more on the 3 hour response time. And I just want to call out to the team of how consistent that number is. So you look at that going, wow, the variation in terms of our ability to kind of keep that 3 hours, 80% within 3 hours is pretty good and responsive. Even when people are out sick, they're on think weeks, we have assemblages. So, or there's a big spike in kind of volume because of an outage or something, we're pretty good at kind of hitting that number, which is great. And, but that doesn't come just naturally, it comes because the team focuses on it. So next slide, I actually want to focus on an example from Sunny, who did this as we went to assemblage. So as more than half the team was in flight, traveling, or being in meetings or assemblage, she went the extra effort to basically kind of put what's expected the team while we're traveling to Austin, while we're at assemblage, focusing things on the time together, reducing project time and focusing on the queue if you kind of had to give, and almost things like setting maximums of how much time to kind of work on things. So I just wanted to call out Sunny for, kind of taking the effort to kind of say, hey, what are we going to do when there's going to be a spike or everyone's going to be on planes for a while. So thanks, Sunny. Next slide. On the voice of the member, this one is all kind of focused on product feedback of people giving feedback around where they like the app or suggestions. A couple things to call out. Some of our recommendations around trying to have less spikes was not landing great because they're looking for more specific things for them to do based upon their data. A feedback around sticker covers, which occasionally comes up around people looking for more than just black. Specifically, this person didn't like having people come up to her all the time asking, what's that patch? And I think Ms. can relate to this when we were in Austin in terms of people coming up to him and asking when we were kind of out for a hike. In the top, or I guess in the middle, 2 people asking specifically around more of a food library or a food database to kind of look up macros. As we talk about exposing our database, but hey, can you actually have things that I can go search through to make this easier, to make logging easier? A person asking for more demographic data, things that I know we're looking at more like people like me. And the bottom 2 are people that had blood panels saying, hi, I just got an extension blood panel. How can I upload this to the Levels app? So are we thinking about having a manual path where someone says, hey, I've got results. I already did this. I don't necessarily need to do it again. I just want the data in the app. And then on the far right, I know engineering is probably tired about support bringing this one up, but just a number of people asking about double logging. So this person actually had 5 logs for the same food, and they're going in and manually trying to delete these. So, and that's it, I think, for member experience.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris. And on to Ben.
Right, growth update for the week. So financials, $136,000 of cash receipts, not recognized revenue. We'll get into that in a second. 255 of monthly cash receipts, 29.8 in the bank. That's cash on hand, no changes to debt, and 60 months of runway. Next slide, please. So the reason why we're talking about cash receipts as opposed to recognized revenue is we now have a cool accountant on board. And one of the areas of responsibility, handoffs and giving away Legos, is Riley is now taking over all financial responsibilities that were related to growth. So when it comes to finance, there's people ops part of finance, and then there's the accounting and all the growth related things. So Riley's taking on, there's a thread about it, but Riley's taking on all financial reporting at Forum and investor updates moving forward. And so he can provide more color, but what we're going to start doing is getting into GAAP accounting. So using accrual-based accounting for recognized revenue as opposed to cash accounting, a little bit nerdy, but he can provide more color on that, and he's going to start that next week. Next slide, please. As far as weekly metrics, so we're at 4,600 weekly active users, and then that represents 62% of them are logging food, and it's roughly 56,000 food logs. And that is up from, we were seeing, it's up about 10,000. So we've been seeing over the past few weeks where it's been going up incrementally by a few thousand, but it's a nice number, and it's nice to see that continuing to grow. Next slide, please. As far as total email signups, we're at 232,000 and up a little bit from last week, so 2,500. And we've been generally over the past year and a half, we've been trending around 10,000 email signups per month, which is cool to see. Next slide, please. So in other areas of responsibility handoff, we have a licensed pilot on board. JM is, and he mentioned this, he's taking over all growth metric tracking and reporting. So any of the metrics that we were reporting in this growth section, there's now a new dashboard he put together in Snowflake that's called Flight Path, and it is a macro dashboard that can give everybody on the team more insight into some of the general pulse things that are going on across the company. And so moving forward, we won't be reporting finance updates in the growth section. We won't be reporting any of the growth metric tracking. Those are going to go into different sections. What we will be reporting is on more of the projects and things that we don't always have time to report on. So some of the things around multimedia, some of the things around traffic and attribution, the work that Paul's doing, and then things like community. So looking forward to doing all that and iterating on it as we go. That is growth for the week. On to Jesse's got an async update about mission patches, which is one of the growth projects, and then Matt on the digital engagement strategy rollout. So super happy to see all of this evolving, and that is it for now.
All right, hey everyone. I'm going to give an update on the Series A mission patch. So this was shipped this week. We had 1,360 mission patches shipped to our Series A community investors. And the main purpose of the slide is really just to give Lori Morrison a shout out for hand packing and sealing and delivering all of these. Her house, you can see this picture over here. This is what her house looked like while she was packing these, and it was a feat of an effort. And Lori, thank you so much for doing that. This project is, so the mission patches will arrive shortly before our Series A PR announcement, which is great because Sissy is cooking up a little community engagement activity with all the patches, so stay tuned for that. And then the rest of the 5% is that we got the list of the operator investors from this round. The cadence was a little bit different, so we're going to be collecting those addresses and then sending those out as well. But the main priority was to get the patches in the hands of our community investors. And that is an update on the Series A patch. Thanks. All right, hey everyone.
Okay, 3 seconds should be long enough to give Josh so we can make it to the next slide, and you don't have to hear me intro this slide twice. Async update this week because I am on Think Week and I have an animation in here that I want to make sure makes it to the final cut. To recap for anybody who may have recently joined the team, the 4 pillars of our digital media stack are creation, distribution, engagement, and measurement. In 2022, as our platforms have grown, we've realigned the responsibilities for each of these pillars, and this week are actually starting the next phase of this realignment. Sunny and Brittany will be joining me in the Sprout Social queue to help get our support team ramped up to manage some of our social media inboxes. The idea is we want to staff the engagement arm of our brand with a resource that is going to scale well with the growth in audience and membership. In 2022 so far, we've had over 6,000 engagements, but nearly half of those have been direct messages or somebody tagging us in their story. Those are one-on-one interactions between a member or a potential member that uses the Levels brand voice, and turns out the support team is already exceptionally good at. So Brittany and Sunny are going to be helping giving me feedback on the documentation for this rollout. And then hopefully as our support team continues to grow, we'll be able to cover more of these areas of engagement. That's the update. If anybody's interested in learning more or reading more, I'll drop the link to this in threads and my Think Week if anybody's interested in learning more about how I did that. Hope everybody has a good weekend.
All right. Great updates, team. Thank you. And thank you, Matt, for the innovative approach to making sure I don't replay your voice at the beginning of this video, but it's not going to, of course, it's not going to replay for yours. Partnerships with Jackie.
Hey team, the theme for this week for partnerships is organic content that has turned into partnership opportunities. We've seen a few great examples of this over the past couple months, where people who we've never had contact with before create awesome organic content, and we've reached out to them and it has turned into an awesome opportunity. So one example was Mike Hanna's YouTube video that featured levels, which had over 8 million views. We reached out to Mike. He expressed interest in creating ongoing content about levels and becoming an affiliate. So we've onboarded him into the program, and I'm really pumped to see what comes out of this new partnership. And then another example was from Edie Hortzman, who's a health coach, and she has an Instagram presence, also an awesome blog. And she recently wrote a really great post about CGMs and highlighted levels as her top recommendation. So we reached out to her, and she was so excited to hear from us. Also expressed interest in an ongoing partnership. So we'll be bringing Edie on as an affiliate as well. Really excited overall about both of these partnerships, and just want to make sure that we're always aware of this type of content being released so that we can reach out to the creator and not only thank them, but also engage them in future partnership opportunities. So we have some new processes in place just to ensure that we're not missing any organic notable mentions of levels, especially where in places where and situations where there is not an existing partnership in place. Athena's been a huge help with this, and really excited to see what new partnerships come out of organic content that we find in the future. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie. And Haney.
All right, a number of new pieces have gone up since last we talked, because I was out last week, so just highlighting a few here. COVID piece I've mentioned a couple times went up. This was a little belated, but there's just been continuing research pouring out about the relationship between glucose and COVID, high glucose levels, kind of in both directions. COVID is causing a lot of diabetes cases, it looks like. People's blood sugar gets elevated and doesn't come back down even after they recover. And then we know high glucose levels affect COVID. So this was a new writer. I tried out, she did a fantastic job, really recommend that piece. Second one there, we had a couple of good food pieces from Revel this week. This one's how to build a healthier pizza. There's also one out there about how to order a better smoothie. Just good, food upgrade pieces. And then the last one is a study that came out a couple months ago. I posted this in threads, but it's a crazy study. So it's worth going to poke at this piece. It's a study of a particular health clinic in Florida. They looked at about 20,000 records and found that of the people who were eligible for prediabetes screening, only 5% of those got a diagnosis, and 0% of those actually got the recommended treatment. So pairs with another study I just posted this morning in threads that a quarter of 12 to 19-year-olds are now pre-diabetic. So it's good to see this increasing focus on prediabetes and people talking about it, and we're just going to continue to highlight it because it's really the sort of front edge of this metabolic health crisis. And then the everyone in content piece that was mentioned, David wrote this memo a while ago. In fact, it was several months ago, so a lot of folks new to the company probably didn't see this when it kind of made the rounds initially, but it's a really great piece highlighting the way we think about velocity versus quality, which I think is sort of a perennial question. And Aaron just kind of translated the memo into a public-facing piece, so we put that out on the Medium site. Next slide. First week of the month, just a metrics update. The TLDR here is pretty flat since last month. A little bump in the traffic, so up 12% is good, but really the big story is that we saw this huge jump from December to January, where we went from like the kind of 160 is our high mark in terms of page views, 60,000 a month, up over 200, and that's continued. So the question was really, is that an anomaly and will it dip back down? But instead, we've seen this kind of stay at that level and then continuing to see slight increases. So that's really great. I think it's a collective result of lots of different things: more publicity for the company, SEO efforts kicking in, more social presence, et cetera. And then I just want to call out this last 6 months trend. This was a slide from a deck I just got from Revel, our content agency, as part of a strategy project they did that I posted in Threads. It's worth looking at, where I asked them just to look at our content, look back at our content over the last year through the lens of Google Analytics and SEO, and see what insights we could draw. And so they just pulled this together as a 6 month comparison. It's a time frame I don't often look at, but it was useful to see. And I think, again, reflects that story of the big jump we saw from Q4 to Q1, but that it wasn't just in page views, also return visitors. And that's a metric we really want to keep growing, because that's really the measure of, are we doing something helpful? If somebody lands on a page because they click on a pizza result in SEO, are they ever coming back to our blog to learn more? And that's obviously what we really want them to do to keep the education up. So that's it for content.
That's it, huh? Pretty awesome.
That's it.
Thanks, Annie. Excuse me. All right, we are ahead of schedule here and only 21 people on the call. So I think we're going to get through all of these. So I'm going to kick this off in just a second with stopping the share. There we go. All right. I will jump right in. Let's see, on the personal front, I've been having some neck trouble for the past 3 weeks, roughly. I think I did some kettlebell damage to it. And yeah, I'm now at the point where I took enough time off that I'm starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel. So personally, I'm excited to get my full range of motion back and stop the constant throbbing. And then professionally, I think we're hitting some, we've talked about this like phase inflection where we're hitting a headcount number where there are consistent themes emerging, which is good because everyone's talking about them. I think there's like constantly attention on decisions and DRIs and process, and it's emerging from the team. And so I'm excited for the challenges that we are going to overcome and that we're going to get into an even faster mode of operation with better iterations and better process control. So I'm kind of excited for what's to come once we figure out a few of the challenges on our plate. Okay. And then I'm excited, let's see, also personally excited for a very great weather weekend ahead. Ben.
Levels wise, very stoked and very much appreciate all the work that Lori and Jesse have been doing behind the scenes with mission patches. It's one of those projects that seems so small, and the feedback that we've got from both earned media and just anecdotes of people like sending in DMs, they really appreciate that touch point of mission patches. So it's easy to overlook that and how much work goes into it. But as you can see, all those boxes in Lori's house, and just really appreciate all that work. So kudos to them. Personally, 3 of the kiddos are going to Pam's parents' house this weekend for a 2-day sleepover, which is nice because we can start to clean out some of the toys and winter stuff and all the things that need to get cleaned out and transferred over to summer mode here as things thaw. So that is it.
It's exciting stuff. That's the great thaw. Alan.
So I'm getting fitter. That's like my top of mind thing. And that's a wonderful feeling. I'm going really slow with running and riding to avoid injuries, but it's stoked to be getting a little bit faster. I'm seeing my FTP go up, and I'm still running slow, but running sucks. So that's just the way it is. And on the professional side, I'm stoked to see people joining the team, and I really appreciate all the positive vibes today. It was great to hear that. So thank you so much.
Love it. Happy 1 year. Congrats on the progress. Caitlin, if you'd like, you can jump in and share something.
Sure. So professionally, obviously, I'm very jazzed to be finally starting after a bit of a delay between accepting the offer and now. And then personally, my sister-in-law is in town, pretty fun. Her and my husband are at the Natural History Museum right now. Kind of bummed to be missing, but then why don't I go by myself more often? I don't know. Yeah, that's it for me.
Oops, I said awesome, welcome, and over to Chris.
On the level standpoint, And a lot of this is because of the awesome team growth is the amount of execution, just that it's hard to keep up with what's going on. Like, so I used to have a pretty good handle on a lot of things going on before the Friday update. And now I don't even try to keep up. So these meetings are critical for me to kind of get a sense of what everyone's doing. It's just incredible on all fronts. So I just want to say it's great working with this team. On the personal side, two things. One, I am super pumped to be watching Super Pumped. And as JK and team take on the Big Apple, I am looking very closely to find cameos of JM and Miz in the background, like, running, taking it down. So that's been fun to watch. And then also in #FarmLife, I have, now that it's spring, I've got a good 12 hours of brush hogging in front of me this weekend. So I got to download some good podcast and get in the zone.
No better way to do it. Good luck. Mercy.
Professionally, it's been a pretty busy week, but it's nice to have a team that is really supportive and knows that everyone is going to jump in and help with everything needed. And then personally, yeah, it's going to be a beautiful weekend. So I'm excited to just kind of get outside, walk a lot, hopefully get a bike this weekend. So yeah.
Nice. See you there. Miz.
On the work side, we had a nice dinner this week, a little meetup on Tuesday that didn't get a shout out, so we'll get the photo in there next week. But got to have dinner with Stoddy, Azure, Maz, Lauren, Maxine, and had some very interesting conversation. Really fun group to bring together, and it was nice to get some FaceTime. Very much enjoyed that. And then not really on the personal side, but I really love the attention to detail from Sunny. That was awesome to see that organization. And then Matt, like the small detail on like the delay on the loom. I just love working around people who bring that into the work. Those are silly examples, but there's a lot of them in the work itself. And those are kind of nice Easter eggs when people care about painting the back of the fence. So that energizes me.
Love that. +1. Mike D.
Yeah, I guess like work related, just like a big shout out to David and Alan and the Eng team to see like the Now page really hitting its stride. And in some of the calls that David and I fielded, it was nice to hear the pain points for the most part we're kind of aware of. So yeah, super excited to see that come together and to release it to, what was it, 50% of members. And then personally, I guess I'll plug the weather. I hate to do that, but I'm excited to be away from frigid temperatures, hopefully, and the sun's out for the first time in a while. So hopefully enjoy some of that.
A lot of people are going to be seeing the Levels logo on Mike's arm in the next few hours and days. Haney.
Yeah, on the professional side, obviously, biggest thing, super excited for Caitlin to be joining next week. That'll be game changing. Also want to call out Mrs. Burnout memo. He was nice enough to share that with me ahead of time and let me weigh into it a little bit and take some comments, but I think it's just such an important topic and great that we're getting ahead of that. On the personal side, it's been like 90 here, speaking of weather, the last couple of days, which is pretty crazy for us, but we're getting back to normal San Diego temps this weekend. So just looking forward to getting outside, doing some long trail runs, etc.
Sounds awesome. Marilla.
Yeah, work-wise, really excited to be sinking my teeth into some like user-facing, really cool projects. It feels like we're at that point in the app, like similar to when like Alan first joined, where the app just leveled up, and now we're leveling up again, and it's just exciting to see those jumps in quality. And personally, today is I've been married for 6 months today, so excited to just have a chill night with the wife.
Awesome, congrats. Rob. Oh, you're muted.
Sorry about that. Goods and bads this week. The goods are obvious. The obesogen papers came out. I did the piece with Casey. I also did a piece with Ben, which I guess will be next week on big pharma, big food, big government. can't wait to see all your reactions to that. So that's all good. The bad news is I contracted COVID in Cancun. And you can hear it in my voice right now. I'm on day 3 right now, and it's been unpleasant to say the least, but not too terrible. Yeah, you used to get turista in Mexico, now you get COVID instead. But life will go on. I was supposed to have lunch with Casey before the Stanford Food Design and Technology lecture today, but I'm gonna have to give it remotely. Oh well.
Sorry to hear that. Hoping you feel better quick.
Me too.
Scott.
Work-wise, I really appreciated, I feel like I've been poking around in linear a lot, and like our sprint planning process, I feel like is starting to hit its stride, which is great. So we've got this good cadence. I think people are getting used to breaking things down. There's a lot of visibility, and I feel like I'm not bugging people anymore, which is awesome. So we did the remote and async thing as hard as we could, and then we had to sort of dial it back a little bit. And that was good outcome in my book. Personally, this is my favorite weekend of the year. It's the Masters golf tournament. So I have like 5 screens around my computer to watch all of it. Fun fact, they have this mode on it now where you can turn off the announcer voice. So it's just like the birds and the wind and the golf sounds. And so I can work without too much distraction. It's actually quite nice.
That feels like a transformative update.
Yes. It is.
Wow.
Yes.
Enjoy.
Yeah.
Sean coming to us from his new location here in Austin.
Indeed. Yeah, I got to check my first bingo box this week. It's good to meet Josh in the flesh. He also got to meet my dad, which was very cool. Personally, yeah, we've got a 2-year-old with a rogue fever. So all the parents know how anxiety inducing that is. So hopefully a restful weekend.
Nice. Hope she feels better soon. See you all soon. Stacy.
From a work perspective, it's always great to see the progress on Now. I feel like it's getting so close, and I love some of the other app changes, like the beautiful sort of sky-inspired time of day changes with the gradients. Those look really exciting, Alan. Excited to see how people respond. On the personal front, celebrating David's birthday all week is fun. We just got a canoe, and if it breaks 55, might try taking it out for the first time. Hopefully there are no holes because the water would be extra cold. But yeah, and other New Hampshire things that we're doing this weekend is going to a friend's house, and they have tapped their trees. So we are going to, I suppose, make maple syrup from whatever came out of the trees. So excited for that.
Many New Hampshire things happening. Sounds great. Stoddy.
Professionally, I'm super excited to be building out some lasting infrastructure and processes around compliance during our big liftoff push. And then personally, I just applied my levels this morning. So I'm excited to give it a try and see how much my favorite kombucha spikes my glucose.
Wishing you the best with the kombucha. Some of us have better luck than others. Sunny.
Well, professionally, I would say, this is actually embarrassing to say, but I did not know the ultimate goal of the IRB. I've been like telling my husband how excited I am about the IRB and what it is and the methods. But I was missing a piece, and Chris filled it in for me in like the last 30 seconds of our touch base this week. So I am extra invigorated to know that the goal is to make this that much faster of a more accessible product. So that just rocketed my steps all week. And then personally had a work-life balance this morning. My husband was like, hey, can we go pick up my tuned up 1997 Mustang Cobra? He had some really cool work done to it way down south. So I hopped on the call as I was driving down to make sure that everything was good with that. And lastly, this is a funny one. After getting delicious coffee with Brittany every morning in Austin, I finally figured out how to make espresso with my AeroPress. So been enjoying that as well.
I'm an AeroPress user myself. Please share any tips. I could use those. And also some pictures of this 60s Mustang, please. Awesome. Let's see, Taylor.
Yeah, +1 to pics of the Mustang. That would be awesome. So let's see, professionally, super excited to see the research team coming together. This is kind of the first week maybe that we've all been working together, and it's really great to see the progress and sort of the vision of how to handle research start to take shape. So that's been the highlight for me for the week. Actually, there's one other thing that I think I've been really impressed with, and that's Maz released sorry, I'm still making that transition. Maz released a memo earlier this week on focus and speed. And I think it's really critical, and it's been awesome to watch how the team is kind of coming together and rallying around that. I'm really impressed with not only the individual sort of competence of everybody on the team, but how well we come together and collaborate to make stuff happen. So really awesome week on that front. Personally, a lot of cool stuff happening. I have a good friend coming into town today who I haven't caught up with for a while, and we're getting ready to head out to Barcelona on Sunday. So I'm going over to Europe for a couple of weeks. So very, very exciting.
Sounds amazing. My brother-in-law just got back from Barcelona, or not Barcelona. He was all over Spain, but anyway, it looks beautiful over there. Okay. Tony is with us, but I don't think he can do a share. He's on audio only right now. So with that, I think we're going to wrap here. I know that the cafe is after this on the same link. I'm going to go ahead and hit stop on the recording here.